Hi, I'm Rosemary. My family was quite poor. Mom and Dad were always trying to save up some money and never spoiled my sister or me. Sandy didn't care because she had no friends and was content to spend her days reading books at home. However, I envied my classmates that got cool gadgets and expensive clothes from their parents. Whenever I asked Mom and Dad for something, they always said we couldn't afford it. Yeah, right. They always found money to buy the things they wanted. Sandy agreed with them no matter what. It made me want to kick her butt. Rosemary, quit bothering Mom and Dad. If I can live without all that stuff, then so can you. Yeah, you're perfect, aren't you? It bummed me out that my childhood wasn't as cool as that of my friends. I couldn't wait to grow up. Then, I would be able to buy anything I wanted and live in the lap of luxury. To be honest, I felt like my world was crumbling. My boyfriend Mason used to treat me like a queen, and all my friends envied me. But lately, he had lost interest in me. I even suspected Mason was going to dump me. Let's spend the weekend together. Some other time. I need to repair my grandmother and visit my bike. Anyway, I'll be busy. Life was dull, and I felt like there was a dark cloud hanging over me. Like my story and subscribe to the channel. Maybe that will cheer me up. And then one fine day, my life was turned upside down. That day, I found a package on the porch. It was raining and I couldn't read who sent it because the words had blurred, but I knew for sure that neither my parents nor Sandy had ordered anything. So I brought the box into my room and opened it. You'll never guess what I found inside. It was a costume of a pregnant woman. A fake baby bump. It looked so freaking real. I decided to prank my parents and put it on. Mom, Dad, you are going to be grandparents soon. I said I had been wearing baggy clothes to hide my condition, but couldn't keep quiet anymore. Then I showed them my belly. My parents looked like they were about to faint, and I was barely holding back laughter. But then, the prank got out of hand. Mom and Dad suddenly burst into tears of joy and promised I would want for nothing, and they would take care of me. Aren't you mad at me? That was quite irresponsible of you, Rosemary, but children are our greatest joy. We will help you. At that moment, I realized I had to seize that chance and ask my parents for everything I had dreamed of for so long. So, I didn't tell them the truth just yet. My insufferable sister almost ruined everything. Sandy didn't believe me and asked me provocative questions, trying to catch me out in a lie. Rosemary, how far along are you? Why did you hide your condition for so long? I didn't know what to say, so I pretended I wasn't feeling well. Mom and Dad freaked out and chased Sandy away. Your sister shouldn't be stressed out. Leave her alone. Mom suggested we go see a doctor, but I said I just needed to lie down. My parents were more patient with me than ever and treated me like I was made of glass. The next morning, I went to school. Mason came up to me, looking gloomy. Rosemary, I've been thinking a lot and decided that I want to break up. I knew he was gonna dump me. I almost burst into tears. But then, I remembered about the ace up my sleeve and showed him my baby bump. Mason, you're not gonna leave me and our baby, are you? He turned white as a sheet. How? When? All we did was hold hands. Oops, I hadn't thought it through. What should I tell him? Remember that party at your house? You ate too much pizza and passed out. Yeah, I remember that. That's when we did it. You're going to be a daddy. Mason scratched the back of his head and hesitantly said that he would be there for me. Wow, it worked! I kissed him and skipped to class. I hadn't done homework and the teacher was about to give me an F, but my fake pregnancy came in handy again. Sorry, the baby was kicking and I couldn't focus. The whole class gasped, and the teacher took pity on me and gave me a good mark. Things were looking up. After classes, I walked home in high spirits. That's when the disadvantages of pregnancy, albeit fake, became clear to me. The baby bump was heavy, and my back was hurting. I was so tired I had to sit and rest a lot. I feel like I swallowed a watermelon whole. A car stopped by me. Our neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, were in it. They had gotten married recently and were very nice people. The couple noticed my round belly. They congratulated me and offered me a ride home. Hallelujah! I got into their car and found out they had been trying for a child for a long time. Unfortunately, the doctors say I can't have children. Oh, I'm sorry. That totally sucks. If you ever need any help, you can always talk to us. I thanked them and went home. My parents were over the moon they would soon become grandparents and bought me a ton of gifts. Of course, Sandy couldn't stand that I was getting all the attention. She kept hinting that I should be examined by a doctor. Why couldn't she keep her mouth shut? You're right. We don't even know the sex of the baby. Mom and Dad immediately sat me in our car and drove me to a hospital. My lies were about to be exposed. So, I pretended I wasn't feeling well again. Dr. Reed asked my parents to wait in the hallway so that she could examine me. I guiltily avoided her eyes and admitted that my stomach was fake. Luckily, Dr. Reed agreed to keep my secret. Of course, I had to pay her for her silence. I don't have that much money. Well, your parents are going to find out the truth then. Can you believe it? I had to promise that I would find the money. After that, the doctor told my parents that the pregnancy was proceeding normally and even showed them an ultrasound of someone else's baby. It's a boy. Amazing. Phew, that was close. Now, I had to figure out how to find the money to bribe the doctor. I was on edge and wanted to get a good night's sleep when When I was finally left alone, I wanted to take off the fake belly and get some rest. But then, Sandy burst into my room and said she wasn't buying it. I will prove that you are deceiving everyone. I wanted to slap the daylights out of her. In the end, I had to sleep with the belly on. It was so uncomfortable. I regretted getting into that mess 100 times over. But it was too late. Luckily, things at school were going great. The teachers went easy on me, and my classmates asked me to touch my belly for good luck. Wow, I can feel the baby kicking. Yeah, right. That wasn't a baby, but a huge tuna sandwich. Mason suddenly walked out of the principal's office. I came up to him and asked him what he was doing there. I decided to drop out of school and find a job to provide for our child. He trudged away, and I felt like a terrible person. My prank had gone too far. What could I do before it all escalated? I was thinking about it on the way home from school when I saw the filming crew of the show Pregnant at 16 by our house. It was a popular reality show about young moms. Hold on a sec, were they there because of me? I desperately wanted to tell my parents about all my lies when I came home. However, they happily announced that they had signed a contract and the next season of the show was going to be about me. They even paid us $1 million. It's brilliant. No, it really wasn't. It was a living hell. I didn't dare tell them the truth. The crew filmed me in the first episode and left. They promised to come back in a few days. Before I could breathe a sigh of relief, Sandy pounced on me. Sooner or later, everyone will find out about your lies. Our family will be humiliated on TV in front of the whole country. I felt sick to my stomach even without my sister's lectures, so I ignored her and went outside to think. There, I ran into Mr. and Mrs. Jones again. They invited me to their place and started to give me various things for my unborn child. We heard it was going to be a boy, so we bought toys and cute costumes for him. I wanted to sink through the floor. There was no child. I didn't want to accept any gifts, but they insisted. As if I didn't have enough things to worry about, Dr. Reed called me and demanded I pay her. How could I forget about that witch? I said goodbye to the neighbors, then took some of the money my parents had got for the TV show and headed to the hospital. Dr. Reed counted the money, looking pleased. It's nice doing business with you. You can't walk around with a fake belly forever, though. I knew that, but so much had happened. I had no idea how to stop all that madness. Oh, that stupid package. I wish I'd never found it. I fell into despair. After coming back home, I took off my fake belly and tried to think of a way to fix things. Then, Sandy ran into my room without knocking and saw my flat belly. I knew you were lying. She called our parents and smugly showed them the fake belly. Weirdly enough, a part of me was glad I wouldn't have to lie anymore. Of course, my parents went ballistic, but I was ready to accept any punishment. Unfortunately, that was just the beginning of my problems. Mom and Dad reread the contract they had signed and said we were in big trouble. If they find out that you aren't pregnant, they will not only take away the money they paid us, but also make us pay a huge fine. We don't have that kind of money. Are you happy now, Rosemary? We're gonna live on the streets because of you. I was about to have a breakdown, but then Mom took control of the situation. She told me to put on my belly and pretend to be pregnant until we came up with a better idea. Sandy, keep your mouth shut. Whatever. But one day, the lies will come back to bite you. I put the fake belly on again, and then someone knocked on our door. Mason's parents came to discuss our future wedding. My son will take responsibility and marry Rosemary. I stared at him with my mouth wide open. A wedding? We were only 16. Then, the crew of the show came and told me it was time to film the next episode. It was a nightmare. What had I done? After everyone had left, I went out to the backyard to get some fresh air. I screwed up big time. All of a sudden, our neighbors came up to me and asked if I was all right. I couldn't keep quiet any longer. I felt my cheeks getting wet as I confessed to Mr. and Mrs. Jones that my belly was fake. They looked at my costume in surprise and said that they were the ones who had bought it. I ordered a belly for my wife so that she could feel like she was pregnant. It must have been delivered to the wrong address. I'm so sorry. It's okay. Don't worry. We'll keep your secret. Mom suddenly came out and led me back into the house. Have you lost your mind? Why did you tell them everything? We could go to jail for your lies. They are good people and won't tell anyone. Mom told me that I would be staying with my grandmother that summer. She didn't say why, but I gladly agreed and had an amazing time on the farm. I could finally forget all about my fake pregnancy and live like a carefree child again. Still, I eventually had to go back home and deal with the mess that was my life. Imagine my surprise when I saw a cradle in my room. And then, I saw my parents. They were holding a real baby. Rosemary, you don't need to wear that belly anymore. Over the summer, we secretly adopted this baby. You'll have to tell everyone he is yours. I was at a loss for words. Before I could say anything, Sandy shouted that the crew was ready to film the next episode. I had to take the baby and quickly get into character. How are you feeling? I want to cry. Tears of joy, of course. Eventually, everyone left. Phew. I was hoping to have a moment to myself, but then it turned out my parents weren't going to help me with the baby at all. I had to take care of him all by myself. I felt like I was stuck in a living nightmare. It was so hard. I had to change diapers, sing Felix to sleep, and even go to school with him. That's what I call the boy, by the way. Meanwhile, poor Mason was working as a waiter to save up for our wedding. One day, Felix started crying when I was in class, and I couldn't calm him down no matter what I did. The teacher said I couldn't come to school with the baby and should take a break from studying and focus on being a mom. You can finish school in a couple of years. I was suspended and had to go home. I cried so much I thought my eyes were gonna fall out. Why was it all all happening to me? Not that long ago, I had been an ordinary child, and now I had to act like an adult and be responsible for a toddler, all because of a dumb prank. I wished I could go back in time and change everything. My neighbors met me by the house. Mrs. Jones gently took Felix and quickly calmed him down. I told him I was at my limit. Can we adopt this baby? You are still a child yourself and should enjoy your youth. We will raise him like our own son. Now that was an amazing idea. I said I would discuss it with my parents and went home. We reread the contract again, and yay! There were no rules saying I could not give my child up for adoption. So I called our neighbors and happily told them that they would soon be parents. We filmed the last episode of the show, and I told the audience that Felix was going to be raised by another family. Was there light at the end of the tunnel? My parents and I were over the moon because we got to keep the money for the show and weren't up to our ears in debt. But there was no pleasing Sandy. You lied to everyone and karma will punish you. What are you, my conscience? Stop ruining everyone's mood. After that, I told Mason that I decided to give Felix up for adoption because that would be better for everyone. He was disappointed in me, and we finally broke up. His parents angrily declared that there would be no wedding, and Mason came back to school. Even though Mason was boiling with anger, I was glad he was studying again. He had a bright future ahead of him. By the way, the principal also let me come back to school as soon as he found out a good couple was going to adopt my baby. I thought that would be the end of my adventures, but fate had other plans. One morning, our neighbors came over, beaming, and told us that a miracle had happened. We did it! I'm finally pregnant! I'm sorry, but we can't adopt Felix anymore. My heart sank. What was I supposed to do now? My parents came up with a new plan. We could just leave Felix at an orphanage. The contract doesn't forbid that. Sandy shook her head disapprovingly, and I realized what I had to do. No, I am responsible for this child. I will not give him up. Felix will grow up in a loving family. My parents didn't approve of my decision, but they accepted it. For the first time in our lives, my sister looked at me with respect. Rosemary, you've grown up. I'm proud of you. Since that day on, Sandy helped me take care of my son so that I could study and work. Felix is very lucky to have such a boring but good aunt. Felix, when you grow up, I'll tell you a lot of funny stories about your wayward mom. Even the most innocent lies can have serious consequences. Don't repeat my mistakes. Not all stories end as well as mine. Do you like the adventures of the Private Diary characters? Then press like and subscribe to the channel. We have a lot more interesting stories coming up.